Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. We are live. This is going to be an Oregon Ducks 2025 season preview, 2026 draft preview. Before we get going, joined today by Dalton, Durst, and Greg. And Durst, again, you're pulling double duty right now during the summer, but how are things going with you right now?
Hey, quack, quack.
And Dalton, Dalton, we just finished like a big signing day, right? Like that was like, I think last week was a big week for you guys, right?
Oh, yeah. All kinds of guys were covering signed, and we got a lot more coming out this year. Especially we got a lot of them I'm looking at right now. Got a couple coming on for interviews this next coming weeks.
Cool. Greg, great to have you back. How are things north of the border?
They're fairly warm, not quite as hot as you guys, but fairly warm. So it's all good. There's no rain. That's a good thing because we had 5 days of it straight last week. So
yeah, it's a scorcher. So I'm in Ohio, and it's mid to high 90s. And ironically, like everybody, stay hydrated. Watch your diet. My son had an incident at cross country practice this morning. I spent 4 hours in the hospital this morning. He has been discharged. He's actually at work right now. But don't mess around with the heat, everybody. Like, stay in where it's air conditioned. Listen to the Mrs. R Relevant podcast, and we will get you teed up for the NFL draft. The first. Go ahead.
Everybody who goes outside to do any activity whatsoever, I don't care whether you're cutting your grass, you're taking a walk down the 2 blocks, I don't care. You better have some damn water with you. And this is from an old Marine telling you this. So damn well listen.
So we are going to start the podcast with a player who is probably going to be right now, if the early boards are any indication, we're talking about a top 20 player here on the Oregon Ducks, and that is safety Dillon Thienman. Greg, do you want to kick off what you think of Dillon Thienman, the safety from Oregon?
Well, he was a former Purdue Boilermaker, so everybody's going to go, huh, what? They don't know how to play defense at Purdue, especially if you've watched the last couple of seasons. But Thienman is a very good safety. I'm going to give you a couple of there's been 2 freshman safeties to have received a higher grade from PFF as freshman safeties, Derwin James and Jordan Whitehead. Where both those men? They're in the NFL. Thienman is a standout as far as I'm concerned here. Single high safety. And single high safeties are a very rare breed. If I was to compare him, I would probably put him in line with what we saw from Troy Polamalu as the NFL. Polamalu was that type of safety that Thienman shows that he has the capabilities of being. Now, this is going to be a much better defense that he's going to be surrounded by in Oregon. So I want to see what happens with Lanning because they're going to use multiple fronts and everything else. But Thienman he's a 6 foot, 207 pound safety who, as a freshman in 2003, he had 6 interceptions. He is just a high football IQ player. I've got him currently going in the first round, along with the other safety that everybody talks about from the Buckeyes. But boy, Thienman is just a standout safety. He is an absolute standout.
So Dalton, how about you? What do you have on Dillon Thienman?
Oh, I like everything he said is pretty true. He's a great prospect to me, first rounder. He can do pretty much anything as a safety. He can play single high. He can play deep third, split field. He can play some robber. Yeah, he can play in the slot a little bit. He can get exposed a little bit in man coverage. It's the only thing he needs to work on. But it transitions a little bit. But if he's in zone and you're letting him sit back in center field, he will come up and he'll lay a wood right now. You don't see guys hit hard anymore, really. It's unfortunate, but he brings the wood when he's coming downhill. It's great to see. And his pass, he plays like a receiver when the ball's in the air. He can adjust to the ball without getting a pass interference call, and he's been good his whole career. He's at.
Okay.
Durst. What do you have in
Yeah.
Dylan?
Well, I think we're going to be all in agreement on him. So, so he was, Purdue transferred 2023, 2024 at Purdue. He made 210 tackles over his first 2 seasons at Purdue. He led Purdue in tackles as a true freshman All-American. It was the Big Ten Defensive Rookie of the Year that year as well. So I wrote down he combines being a ball hawk with very good instincts and range and being a secure tackler who runs the alley and wipes out ball carriers. I do think he's got a lot of versatility. I've seen him play some slot reps. I've seen him play, as a robber or in the box. But I do like him best as a deep safety, single high safety. I think he's just got such good instinct and just a super quick trigger when it comes to what he sees and then attacking it. Now, if I had to say a concern, he had 6 interceptions as a true freshman, and those interceptions turned to pass breakups as a sophomore. So he had 0 interceptions, but 6 pass breakups, PBUs. So now his ball skills, his tracking, his hands did not go away. And I realize that interceptions can be a little bit fluky from year to year. So I'm not really concerned about it. But I definitely like to see him get some more interceptions as his junior, just to kind of, support the idea that this is a guy that can take the ball away and make some, create some turnovers. So my only apprehension of having him in the first round is Caleb Downs, because he seems pretty secure right now as the number 1 safety. I think by the end of the season, though, there are going to be a couple of people that maybe say that Thienman might be the better safety. A little bit better range. He might actually have a little bit better speed. And I think he might be closer to his listed weight than Downs, that might be a little smaller than people think he is. So Nick Emmanuel going into the second round last year, again, it just kind of supports the idea that sometimes you just don't get 2 safeties in the first round. So that would be my only concern at this point.
Well, Bill put it up. It hasn't happened since Jamal Adams and Malik Hooker were taken in the first round.
Okay. Wait a minute. So what? I think which one was that? What about the Derwin James and Mika Fitzpatrick? What year is that?
I think that was
after that.
No, I think that came before.
Derwin James, I think, has played about 10 years.
Yeah, I think that. Okay. I think that was. It was either 2015 or 2016, but 2017 was when Jamal Adams and Malik Hooker both came out. And Malik Hooker is in trouble in Dallas because of his contract situation. This young man right here should become the next safety for the Cowboys. That's my only reason.
Okay, so let's do a Thienman Caleb Downs.
Yep.
Greg, paint a picture that Thienman goes higher than Downs. Like, what would Thienman have done right, or what part of his game would elevate him higher than Caleb Downs?
Thienman, as Durst said, he has better speed than Caleb Downs does. And I want people to actually use the GPS tracking that EA Sports has on these players, because there was 2018. But he was 17th, and Edmund was at 28. Okay, that's fine. But Thienman is, I think, if he gets some more interceptions, obviously, like Durst said, I mean, he had 6 as a pure freshman. Last year it was all breakups, but again, that Purdue defense was horrible to watch. Come on, that was horrifying to watch. But he was still an effective tackler. Again, I like the fact that he's going to see a much better defense around him in Oregon than he had at Purdue, and that could raise his level. Bottom line, but again, I want to watch everybody pay attention to the EA Sports numbers on these players. Don't worry about them running in the damn underwear.
So, Dalton, how about you? Could you paint a picture where Thienman is drafted higher than Downs? Like, what would that look like to you?
Something we haven't mentioned yet, I think, is how much Thienman lives in the weight room, and the film room both. That's what his coaches and his teammates say. So maybe the interview process, you don't know much about Downs off the field. I don't, at least. So that plays a big part. We've seen that this year. There's a couple guys fell big time because of off the field issues.
Yep. And Durst, how about you? Is there anything that you could see where Thienman goes higher than Downs, and like what would that look like?
Yeah, as I mentioned a couple of times these podcasts, I am doing some numerical grading, and I haven't really completed my Thienman yet, but I have completed my, my preliminary summer one for Downs, and so one of the categories I actually had Thienman higher in was the range and sort of the speed and range. And I have them a little bit higher by like a point or something in terms of the ball skills. Again, I don't think the ball skills went away.
No.
So that is those are probably the two categories that might mean the most for some. If some people see Downs as more of a attacking downhill, click and close, get near the the line of scrimmage and make the tackler or mow down some ball carriers, but they see Thienman as a guy that can be like a deep coverage, has the range, has the ball skills to take the ball away. I can see some people at the end of this thing saying that they think like Thienman might be a little bit better than Downs. I might be one of those guys by then.
Yep.
Okay. And we have a lot of college football left to play. For the audience, we are recording this at the end of June.
Yeah,
So,
and both those guys are true juniors. So, I mean, there's always a chance that one of them goes back. It's unlikely, but yeah, there's a chance.
Yeah. So we're giving our summary right now with summer scouting. There is still a full college football season left to play. So the next player we're going to talk about from the Oregon defense is edge Matayo Uiaelelei. Okay.
Uiaelelei.
Uiaelelei. There we go. Wow, that twisted my tongue. Dalton, you want to kick off Matayo?
Yeah, man. I watched a lot of film on this guy. 10.5 sacks last year, so he already got the production. His first step's great. He can beat the tackles to the point of attack. I like that he can play with his hand in the ground or standing up. He has versatility, any scheme. His backpack pursuit is crazy. He chases down a lot of ball carriers, especially for his size. His discipline's great against stretches and zone reads. He'll stay home and make sure the quarterback has to keep it. Bit one-dimensional as a rusher. Pass rusher, though, he could add some more moves. But overall, I think I got a first-round grade on him right now just based off production. And he could raise his floor this year even more. I think he could have 12 sacks this year or more.
Durst, how about you?
Yeah, so what I put in my notes is appears to be a higher level prospect than Brandon Dorlus or Jordan Birch. So Dorlus came out 2 years ago and Birch last year. I think Dorlus was a 4th round and Birch I think made it into the 3rd, but they were fringe top 100 guys. I do think that this is the top guy that's come out for the edge since Kayvon Thibodeau. So he's got the size and the frame of a four-man front. I considered him a power rusher with excellent hand power and grip strength. Can reduce inside and split creases in the O-line. He's got pretty good speed to power, a developing spin move that he showed off in the spring game as well. And he can fight through double teams to bring down the ball carriers. But I called him a power rusher, and there was a guy that responded to me that I think might have been a Ducks fan or maybe just a football fan, but he was like, I don't think he's a power rusher. It's like, he seems a little bit finesse to me. So I'm kind of interested in what you guys have to think in terms of this style of rusher. He's not a bendy Brian Burns guy. When I say he's a power rusher, he's not a Jared Verse level of power rusher. And when I hear finesse, I'm kind of thinking maybe a Latu, just very skilled technician, and I'm not so sure he's any of those guys. So for weaknesses, I wrote down appears a little stiff. He does not have elite get off or bend. He is, despite his impressive sack numbers, and Dalton mentioned he had 10.5. I saw some misses there. So I think he could have had, 15 sacks and maybe will this next year. So if he cleans that up, then I think he's a sure, first round pick. But he needs to improve his ability to finish once he gets near the quarterback. I tried to come up with a comp for him, and I ended up settling on Bradley Chubb. So a guy that's got some power, a guy that was a pretty good player in college. Maybe he wasn't a great player in the NFL, but he was a very good player in college. I think he was the first edge taken that year.
Yeah.
So, Greg, what do you have on Matayo Uiaelelei?
Well, in addition to his 10.5 sacks, he did have 12.5 tackles for loss. He had 6 QB hits. He forced 2 fumbles. Had a pick as well. So obviously his hands are pretty decent. I agree with what Durst basically said about his style. Bradley Chubb is somebody that he really does remind me of currently. I think he's going to be a first round pick as long as Lanning gets him taught a couple of more moves, as Dalton mentioned as well. I'd like to see his rip become a little bit stronger than what he showed last year. His spin move, like you said, Durst, in the spring practice was vastly improved over the season before. So yeah, this young man has definitely got NFL draft talent.
Okay. Next player we are going to cover, linebacker Bryce Boettcher. Durst, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, it is Boettcher. The O's kind of silent, but anyway, I won't be there. I'm not the pronunciation police or anything like that.
It helps us to get it right, so I appreciate being corrected.
Yeah,
so he's a fifth-year senior, and he's got a hell of a backstory. So he was a walk-on in both baseball and on the football team. So I just call him, he's a competitor, he's a hard worker, he's a team captain, he's the green dot guy this year. He won the Burlsworth Trophy winner, which I know I got an Arkansas guy on the other side here, but that was awarded to the most outstanding player who began his career as a walk-on. I didn't write his first name. Is it Brian Burlsworth? He was drafted by the Ravens and unfortunately passed away before he ever got to play a game. There's a movie about him I saw like maybe a year ago or so.
Yeah.
So he is a smooth athlete who brings a center fielder's range and ball tracking. So that's actually his position in baseball as a center fielder. So he can see the fluidity in his hips and his movement when he tries to drop. He's smaller than this guy, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Urlacher, Brian Urlacher when he was at the Bears. I think if Tampa 2 defense was still a thing, I think this guy would be a natural fit there. So I saw an interview with him, and he said that this is like the first year he isn't playing baseball since like Little League, like since like T-ball or something like that. So every year he said he basically dropped 10 pounds to become a center fielder again. And so one of my concerns about him was a little bit of play strength. In a game with against Michigan, I saw Colston Loveland break a tackle. And Colston Loveland only even had like 3 or 4 missed tackles. It was the weakness of his games last year. And then I also saw, I just blacked out, but the Michigan running back that was on the cover of CF.
Edwards.
Donovan Edwards and stuff like that. So, I mean, that was not a strength of Donovan Edwards' game either. He was, a little bit of a bursty guy, but he was not like a tackle breaker so much, but he broke Boettcher's, tackle and stuff. But now I feel a little bit better about the whole play strength because he says he's basically keeping on the weight this fall or this spring. He's not going to lose the weight like he normally did. Now, my biggest concern is this guy might not really be playing football. I actually studied him last year preparing for Oregon, and he was eligible. And listening to some podcasts, it sounds like the people that covered Oregon were shocked that he even came back last year. He had already been drafted by the Houston Astros. They were like, okay, he's going to give us one more year. He just really wants to play football before joining the baseball team. So when he came back for another year, that was kind of a huge surprise to me because even last year it sounds like it was a surprise to the people who covered Oregon. But he became a heck of a player this last year, and maybe he's got a Connor Murray decision about whether or not which sport he's going to end up playing in the pros. But takedown power and whether or not he even plays football as a pro are my 2 biggest concerns with him.
Greg, how about you? What do you have on Bryce Boettcher?
Yeah, pretty much everything that Durst talked about him. He did have a forced fumble. He did have one pick last year. Um, I don't know whether or not he is going to stick to football, just like you said, Durst, because, I mean, he was drafted fairly highly by Houston. So I don't know why he decided not to play baseball this year. I have no idea. Whether it's just taking a year off, I don't know, or he's just changed to become a football player. I really have no idea at this point.
Can I chime in just a little bit of that, just because I saw an interview, but I don't want to take up your time. But he's actually a Eugene native, and so I
Yeah.
saw an interview where he was just basically like, I don't want to regret, leaving that football eligibility and stuff. So he played baseball first and then walked on to football. So he was at Oregon for like a whole year before he ended up
Yeah.
joining the football team. So he had that extra year of eligibility, and I just think he loves Oregon, he loves Eugene, and he just did not want to leave that opportunity and regret that he didn't take it and stuff.
Yeah.
And before we pivot to Dalton, one thing we should point out is people get drafted to play baseball all the time and don't play baseball, right? I mean, this happens frequently, whether that's a John Elway. Somebody in my high school was drafted by the Reds, and he just went to college to go play basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Like, some people are staying in for the education, and hey, getting drafted is bragging rights.
Dave Winfield was drafted in every professional sports league except the NHL. So there you go, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Like tidbits of info. But Dalton, what do you have on Bryce Boettcher?
He was 13th round in baseball, so I mean, he's not guaranteed to make the league necessarily. He'd be grinding the minors for a long time if you're a 13th rounder. So maybe that's something to deal with it. If you're in the NFL, you're in the NFL. You don't have to go through the minors. But as a player, I like him a lot actually. As a linebacker, like 3rd or 4th rounder. The only thing he needs to work on is pass rush. He's not going to provide any of that right now. 2 sacks last year, and they weren't off of blitzes or anything. It was off QB scrambling. But he's great defending the pass. Actually, I think he could be really good in sub packages in the NFL. 3rd and 4th rounder. If he sticks to football, though, like you said, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Okay, and Oregon has another linebacker. Greg, do you want to tell everybody about Devon Jackson?
Okay, so Mr. Devon Jackson, 6'2", 230 pound. He's got some decent abilities out there. I mean, he has 1.5 sacks. I think he's going to be more of at this point, I would put him more as a 5th round, 6th round pick who would be helping out on special teams to begin with. I like his play, but I just don't see him as a NFL linebacker to start off his career with.
Got it. Dalton, would you like to add anything on Devon Jackson?
He's really fast. He's one of the fastest linebackers in the country, probably, but he just got to add more bulk and strength. I think right now he's kind of a tweener between safety. He's too big to play safety, but he's just not big enough to play linebacker right now. So he needs to put on bulk, and if he can keep that speed, then that's when he can be a good developmental player. But right now, special teamer mostly.
And Durst, do you have anything to add on Devon Jackson?
Yeah, a little bit. So, he was a backup last year. So he was a rotational linebacker. He was a backup last year, but he actually might have the better pro potential. I think he's a better blitzer than Boettcher. I think Boettcher kind of goes back a little, backwards a little bit better with his center field ability. And I think he's a little bit more, I don't want to put him on the Jalon Walker or anything like that, but I think he's a little bit better going forward with his speed. He's got sideline to sideline agility and speed, but I'm not so sure he puts it to use in coverage as well as he does going forward as a blitzer. So, he's a freaks list guy, Bruce Feldman, a freaks list guy, listed as being 23.55 miles per hour with a 39-inch vertical. So I think he's going to be a guy that really has a breakout season this year. I think he's going to be a big part of the team. That's it.
Yep. So for everybody listening, Durst has put some stuff on Twitter, and I'm looking at the graphic not sharing it on the podcast, but looking at the graphic. So if you have to compare linebackers between Devon Jackson and Bryce Boettcher, they're both listed at 6'2", 230. Jackson is listed as a fourth-year junior. Boettcher is a fifth-year senior. But to the point of both Bill Sparks in the chat, as well as at least one person here, I think it was Durst just mentioned this, Jackson may be the better prospect. He's got a estimated 4.49 40-yard dash. So the ironic thing is the PFF grade is higher on Boettcher. But if right, we're not going to base upon a draft on a PFF grade, right?
No.
So recognize certain things that the NFL likes, which would include speed, and Devon Jackson is going to be a name that we want to kind of look at because there's traits there that are difficult to coach. Right, not very many linebackers are sub 4.5.
Yeah. So instead of worrying about his 4.40 time, Durst, you gave his speed. That's the number you need to pay attention to. Stop worrying about what these guys run their 40 times in their little underwear. Stop it.
Okay, so I'm looking through the list. There is one more defensive player, and that is Bear Alexander. And Dalton, you do a lot on the recruiting side, right? The high school recruiting into college. Like, you have an entire podcast dedicated to that. So have you been tracking Bear Alexander, like, in all of these stops along the way? Or tell us what you think of Bear Alexander.
He has so much talent, man. You can see it. From a freshman, he played in the rotation at Georgia as a freshman, and he made some impact plays as a pass rusher, decent tackle. There might not be a better one in the country. It's just, can he keep his head on straight and is he coachable? But I have been following him, and he wasn't great last year. I was expecting big things of that in that defense. I thought he could be the standout player because they didn't have one, But he didn't really get on the field that much. But his talent's there because if you play in at Georgia as a freshman in that defense, it's hard to do,
Yep. So, Durst, what do you have in Bear Alexander?
Yeah, so he, as you were touching on, he's a two-time transfer. Georgia in 2022, USC in 2023 and 2024. Now, he quit the USC team last year. I think it was after the fourth game, if I remember right. I didn't write that down, but he quit the team and decided to enter the portal. And it's not the first time. He played at apparently 5 different high schools and 3 different colleges. The story I heard about why he left Georgia is him and Cedric Van Pan got into like an altercation. I think it turned into a fist fight. He was a former center for Georgia. So I wrote down good size and frame, has first round skill set, and very good agility for his size. But weakness is character. He seems to be a malcontent, and he was also kind of miscast at USC as more of a nose tackle, and most of the reps I saw, where he's going to get more of a chance to be more of maybe more of a 3-tech here. He's wearing number 1 over at Oregon now. So my comp for him was Leonard Taylor, a guy that I thought was kind of similar, a guy that ended up being an undrafted free agent, who was also maybe a little bit of a character concern, maybe a little bit more of a malcontent.
Greg, how about you?
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement with Durst. This guy's malcontentness has just been on a huge scale. I don't think he's going to be that great as a D3. I think if he better put on another 15 pounds, get up to 330, and be an NT. He would be much better off going to the run stopping type defensive tackle rather than a pass rusher. Even though he did play at Georgia, guess what? When you get into fight with your teammate and a very good teammate at that, you got problems. And so, he's a malcontent. I could see him being an undrafted free agent because of his level of malcontentness. It's just been massive.
Yep. And I know Bill Sparks, you're in the chat, and I know that Bill and I have had comments on Bear Alexander. So Bill doesn't even have Bear Alexander actually on his board. And we're going to mention him. He's in the draft class. We are now moving on.
There you go.
The next player we're going to talk about is actually not going to play for Oregon this year, but he deserves some love, and that's Evan Stewart. So, Durst, what do you have on Evan Stewart? Wide receiver.
Yeah, I was pretty high on him last summer. He was another guy that was actually eligible for the 2025 draft, and I know I had him in my top 10 in summer scouting last year. But ironically, my concern was durability and injuries back then, and now he's torn his patellar tendon. But he had some injuries that affected him both during his true freshman and sophomore year. So I wrote down his strengths: lightning fast releases, very good speed and tempo, route running, really good body control on some of these catches. But again, durability, injuries are the weakness. Despite his speed, he has difficulty uncovering versus man and gaining yards after the catch. He's not been a very good yak kind of guy. I felt he needed to add some more muscle and some play strength. He's kind of a lift kind of guy. He reminds me a little bit about I just blacked out the Maryland guy who was the top guy from Maryland last year that drafted in 2012.
Felton?
Ty Felton?
Yeah, Ty Felton. That's right. Ty Felton. So a little bit of a finessey kind of guy, needs him a little bit more play strength. So I do think there is a small chance that he could declare after this because his resume's, he's got a good resume. But I would suggest he needs to put together a healthy season and, come back with Dante Moore in 2026.
Yep. Greg, anything to add on Evan Stewart?
I completely agree with Durst. He's got to come back and play in 2026. He's a Frisco, Texas native, so he gets an automatic visit to the Cowboys. But no, do not touch this young man, Jerry. Do not touch him. He needs to be bigger. He needs to have some success in learning how to separate better, get some yards after those catches. And again, that all comes with playing, and that's going to be in 2026.
Okay. So now we're going to go with Fat Guys Win Championships. This is the section of the podcast where we're going to talk about some large gentlemen on the offensive line, starting with offensive tackle Isaiah World. Greg, you want to tell everybody what your draft analysis of Isaiah World is right now?
Okay, so he is a very big boy at 6'8". He's only got about 310 pounds on his frame, though. He was a player at Nevada. In terms of his abilities, he was an honorable All-Mountain West honorable mention. He started all 13 games. He had 852 snaps at left tackle. He finished the season with an 82 and a 3 pass blocking grade from PFF, and a 80.8. 82.3 pass blocking grade. He's definitely going to be in a better position this year playing at Oregon. I like him, but again, I want to see him play at that Big Ten level versus the Mountain West. I want to see him succeed at the Big Ten level. Cornelius was instrumental in him coming to Oregon, which was something that I was about to mention, but okay. Because Cornelius, of course, is now he was my favorite right tackle starting before last season started, because I saw him play that year before, and he protected Bo Nix like nobody's business. And then again with Dylan Gabriel last year, he was very good. But World, I think he just needs that whole season of being a Big Ten player. His leg kick is solid. I want to see him improve upon his hand strength, though. His hand strength has to come up much more this year.
Dalton, Isaiah World.
Yeah, he needs to put on a little bit of weight. I think it's 312. He needs to be on around 320 at least. But what I saw on film, he does a really good job of mirroring pass rushers. I know it's not. I got to see it at the bigger level, but against his competition, he did great at that last year. And his fundamentals are improving every game. I've seen when I started the first game going to the last. Just his fundamentals in pass blocking were a lot better from game 1 to game 6. He understands angles well too. Like when he's about to get beat, he can recover because he understands the angle he's going to go on. But his hand placement is very inconsistent. He's wide a lot, so the defenders can get to his body. He's got to fix that. That's the biggest thing. But right now, I think he'd be a swing tackle, but he has a lot of room to develop. So I think maybe 3rd or 4th rounder right now.
Durst, Isaiah World.
Yeah. So one thing, of course, Dalton just got through saying a swing tackle. I do think he is probably a tackle only. So this is a guy, because of his unique build, is probably not suited to play guard and certainly not center. And so if he's not a starting tackle, he would have to be a swing tackle in the NFL. So, again, this is a 5th-year senior, plays first 4 years at Nevada. He had 35 starts in Nevada, so he definitely brings a lot of experience to Oregon. But it's a completely different level of competition. Nevada only had a couple of pass rushers they faced on their schedule per season that were worth noting. SMU had a couple that they played against, and they played Minnesota last year too. I have him as a potential first-round grade, but pending him rising to the level of competition. He's combines rare height and length with quick, light feet for his size. I think he uses his size and wingspan well to control defenders, and I feel like he can shuffle his feet very well. So he's got good lateral agility, change of direction to mirror pass rushers pretty good. Now, the level of competition questions won't be a question after next year. We'll know whether or not he can do it or not and stuff. So this is kind of going into the season. We're concerned about it, but it's sort of, he does it or doesn't do it when he plays Oregon's schedule, which is, one of the best schedules in the nation. Now, when you get these 6'8", maybe sub 310, kind of guys, you get a certain amount of benefits and you get some drawbacks. There's some biomechanical things that are just difficult for him. So he's a little bit of a waist bender. He loses some leverage at times because he doesn't have that natural leverage. So he does need to add some bulk. So I'm kind of on a wait and see, but I'm pretty optimistic. I think this guy, if he puts it all together, could be a first rounder this next year.
Okay. The next lineman, Iapani Laloulu. Dalton, you want to kick that one off?
This guy's just a brick wall. 6'2", 325. You don't see many guys that size playing, especially at a high level. His strength on pass protection, it shows how big he is. You see guys just run into him, and he just stands there. It's crazy. He has so much strength. And for his size, he moves really well, too. His reach blocks, he has great lateral agility on those. His hand technique's really good. He was the leader of the line last year, The centers, when he's a leader of the line, that tells you a lot. It's good to have him as the leader, but a lot of times they're just not good enough to do it. But he's great at processing stunts and blitzes. You can see them before they happen. And he can make the pre-snap adjustments. He did that a lot last year. The only thing he needs to get better at is lunging. He lunges a lot in pass pro. If he does that, he fixes that. It's hard to get by him at all. And he needs to develop as a puller a little bit more, too.
Durst, what do you have on him?
So his nickname is Poncho. That's kind of a fun nickname. He was a 4-star high school recruit, and he was named by 24/7 Sports as a true freshman All-American, even though he only started one game in 2023. But he backed up all 3 interior line positions. Now, he did start 14 games last year, 12 at center, and so that seems to be his home for now. But I do that right as a strength, guard center versatility. I wrote down he can immobilize multiple defenders with his powerful base and grip strength. He's very good at anchoring versus power, and he's got some good displacement power when he's trying to bulldoze in the running game. Definitely saw some pancakes on his tape. He's able to get out of his stance and reach the second level. Now, what really has sold me on him is he more than held his own against Michigan's Mason Graham and I forgot Grant's first name all of a sudden, but 2 first-round picks in the 2025
Kenneth.
Kenneth Grant, right. in not only the Michigan game, but he faced Ohio State's Talik Williams, and a guy that maybe not everybody knows this year, but Penn State Zane Durant, I think, is going to be a name to remember this year. So he's been able to more than match the power and the play strength of multiple guys that are now going to be going into the NFL or just was drafted in the NFL, and some guys that are going to be going into the NFL in the 2026 draft. Now, I wrote down he's a little bit unproven versus blitzing linebackers and safeties. I just didn't see a whole lot of that. Not that he can't do it, but I didn't really see him picking up blitzes from the faster guys coming from the second and third level. And I'd like to see his ability to hit linebackers and DBs when he's in space. He's a bigger guy, like 6'2", 325. So I'm not so sure about his speed when he's kind of in space and going against the quicker guys. But I have him as a day two guy. I'm pretty optimistic about him.
Greg, how about you?
I've got this young man as a day two guy as well. He doesn't get to face Ohio State in the regular season, but he does get to play Penn State. So he will get another matchup with Zane Durant this year. I've got him going like early in round 3 right now, but he could move up quite easily. He could be a guy that, because he has the guard capability as well as the center numbers, obviously that's going to boost him up in the eyes of the NFL. But I really prefer him as a center. I thought he handled himself very, very well as a center. So I think he's gonna be a very good NFL player.
Okay, and the next player, Durst, Emmanuel Pregnon, formerly of USC, now at Oregon.
I'm not quite as high on him. I do have him as a fringe, top 100 guy, but I'm not as optimistic. So he's another two-time transfer, Wyoming in 2020 to 2022, USC in 2023 to 2024. What's kind of notable, besides he's got 37 combined starts in his career, is he had 0 sacks and just 2 QB hits the last 2 seasons at USC. So he's got good size and frame. He's got, I think, some pretty good displacement power. He's very difficult to get around, which, is maybe one of the reasons he had 0 sacks last 2 years. He displays some ability to pull and counter. I think he's got decent recovery if he's initially beat. Again, another thing that kind of went into his 0 sacks, I think, is the fact it's not that he never got beat, but he was able to recover. But he seems to be a guard only, in my opinion. Certainly doesn't have tackle ability, and I haven't seen that he played any center. I may be wrong on that. And he's got some lunging balance issues, that a lot of people have. So I have him. Is he 6-year senior or is that 5th-year senior?
I see 6th-year senior on your graphic.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg, what do you have on Emmanuel Pregnon?
Well, of course, he went to that fight on school, a place that I don't like. So, But again, he did do very well against the Notre Dame front last season. He is definitely just going to be a guard. And again, because he's only going to be a guard, I got him going day 3 because he's only got that one position. That's going to be his downfall as far as the NFL draft goes, because of course he's not going to be a tackle. He does not have the leg movement to become a tackle, but he has a very solid anchor, which is something that a guard must play with, is a very solid anchor. That's the difference between being a guard and a tackle, kids, is when you're inside like that, you have to be able to put that foot down and stay there. Boom. Take those hits. Boom. Take your next step and punish and pancake a guy. That's something that he's capable of, but is he going to be a high draft pick? I don't see that. I don't see it.
Dalton, what do you have on Emmanuel Pregnon?
I couldn't agree more with what they said. Guard only. He's a solid guard. I got a day 3 grade on him as well. But a lot of those guys, you draft them and you plug them in for 10 years. I think you get that with them, honestly. You're just never going to get great mobility.
Yeah. Yep. It is completely okay to be a day 3 player, and day 3 guards. I think more interior linemen go on day 3 than on day 1 and 2 combined.
Yeah.
It's where the positional value is. And unless a team is desperate for a starting offensive lineman immediately, I think most interior linemen are like, rounds 4 through 6. It's just the way that the draft works. So we have finished the offensive lineman. We have 3 other players to cover. Durst, do you want to kick off Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end?
I'll tell you what, Oregon media and fans are psyched about this guy. So, there's some discrepancy on his height. So the one, I'll go kind of all the way to the negative, which is that he's a little bit undersized. He's more in that 6'2", 245, might be a little less than that. Might be more of a wide receiver, tight end hybrid. But then again, Brock Myers wasn't that big, and Evan Ingram wasn't that big, and of course, these guys have been very productive. So my biggest concerns would be little undersized, and is he ready to mentally and physically to take this step into the featured role? When I say featured role, they are talking about getting him 80 touches this year. It was brought up during the spring game. That's their goal, is to try to get him 80 touches. He was the number 4 athlete in the 2023 recruiting class. Athlete, because he wasn't ranked as a tight end or as a wide receiver, just as an athlete. But he's put on 20 pounds since high school. He's expected to have a breakout season in 2025, at least partially because of some concerns about the wide receiver room, including Evan Stewart being out for the season. So they missed a lot of production because they had 2 guys that went to the NFL and then 1 guy that was lost for the season. They're starting 3 wide receivers from last year are all gone, as was their starting tight end. That's right. Kenyon Sadiq was a backup last year, or at least a rotational guy. But yeah, they think he's going to rewrite the Oregon record books in terms of single season production this year. So very explosive. Seems to have a lot of after the catch. In fact, out of the guys I charted, his 10.1 yards after catch led the tight end class in terms of the people I looked at. There are draft prospects for the 2026 class. So looking forward to this guy. I think is going to be a huge season for him.
Greg, Kenyon Sadiq.
I don't think he's going to reach the 6'3" mark either. I've got him down to 6'2". I just have. I just know that the schools lie about these guys' heights. Yeah, I mean, every guy that we talked to too on Team MBS Draft Central last year, I didn't think I was that small. No, you are. That's the bottom line of this. Except for Kendall Paul, who admitted flat out, yes, I'm very small, which he was. But again, all these guys, I thought I was 6'7". No, you're only 6'6". Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know who tells these lies to these kids, and whoever comes out with these numbers from the schools, stop lying about their size. Please just stop lying about their size. It's just ridiculous. But Sadiq, as Durst mentioned, is going to be the feature receiver, apparently. And again, as we discussed the other day in the draft professor room, because of the South Carolina tight ends comments that we got, because Durst and I mentioned that he could play tight end in the NFL. Okay, Darren Waller. Hello.
Yeah, that's right. You guys were responding to me because I think I was the one that asked, when was the last time, what was it, a wide receiver converted to a tight end?
Yeah. But Darren Waller is just a perfect example of what this kid could be like. There are cases of a wide receiver being bumped up to tight end or a tight end coming down to play more of a wide receiver role. I always say Chase Claypool should have been a tight end at Notre Dame. I said it from the get-go, even though Cole Kmet was there. I just saw more of a tight end body in Chase Claypool. Yes, he had some speed down the field, but everything else to me said tight end. He didn't do that conversion in the NFL. Guess what? He's out of the league. There you go. Right? But again, this young man is going to be the key receiver for the Oregon Ducks. And if he does have that type of season, look out.
Dalton, what do you have on Kenyon Sadiq?
I can see why everybody's excited about him just off of limited film. He can line up outside in the slot. He can line up as a tight end, obviously. His body control looks great. He's a natural hands catcher, it looks like. He snags the ball away. He made a lot of contested catches last year. I think he had 28 catches maybe total, but a lot of them were contested. His leaping ability is great. Does a good job finding spots in the zone. I think he's going to be a good QB blanket this year if he's able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, second to last player. Greg, you want to kick off Makhi Hughes, the running back?
Okay. I just got to get him listed here. There he is, Makhi. All right. So he's 5'11", 210 pounds. He came from Tulane, which, if people don't understand, Tulane always schedules a tough opponent, and they always play those tough opponents very, very well. Tulane is just a modern miracle of great contests every year. So, everybody who talks about Tulane, for some reason, I don't get that. But Makhi Hughes is, last year he had 265 carries, 1,401 yards. He is a very solid running back, and I've got him right now as I've got him going in like round 3. But go ahead, guys. Give us your take on Hughes.
So Dalton, Makhi Hughes.
I really like his game. I've seen him play a lot because, like you said, Tulane actually plays a lot of big games, believe it or not.
Yep.
He rarely goes down on first contact. He always falls forward. So he has great leverage, finishes with authority on every run. He has great vision, too, to set up a lane. So he's very patient. He trusts his blockers. He had a lot of big plays those last few years, 30-plus yard runs. So he shows he has home run ability, too, even with that power. So right now I got him a late second, early third round. Just needs to improve pass blocking, but what college running back doesn't? Like, really?
Yeah. Durst, how about you, Makhi Hughes?
I also am as a round 3 guy. So I think if he had came out in the 2025 draft, he would have been a day 3 guy. But any normal draft, I think this is probably a round 3 guy. So, so he played 3 seasons at Tulane. I wrote down a decisive, creative runner with a complete skill set for a 3-down back. Now, I wouldn't say any of those skills are elite, but he has a complete skill set. So above average vision, spatial awareness, very good explosiveness, contact balance, has a tendency to fall forward, and has got a nice, like some people like run kind of like an upright stance, and he has a tendency to be more of a nice lean to his run that I like. I wrote down he frequently got caught from behind, though. So I don't think he's got really good speed. I don't think he's got home run speed. There's a few times I saw him caught from behind, and he does have 5 career drops. So even though I say he's like a 3-down guy, he does need to clean up the drops a little bit. So excited to see what he can do at Oregon. He gets to stay in the green colors. So excited. I think he's going to be one of the top running backs in college football. But again, maybe I don't think he's going to be a top 100 or top 50 guy. I think he's going to be more of a top 100 guy, but not top 50 guy.
Okay, and saving the best for last, Dalton. Quarterback Dante Moore from Oregon. Tell us what you have on him.
Well, we haven't seen him play a lot of meaningful ball since 2023, right? Freshman year. He had all the hype around him, and he did really struggle. The team wasn't great around him. You can see the talent. He has a really quick release with the football, one of the quickest I've seen. His pocket presence, when he's at Oregon this past year, looked way better than as a freshman. Could be the O-line, but hopefully not. Hopefully he can do that under pressure this year. He has good ball placements on the intermediate routes. Even going back to his freshman year, he was good at that. But he has to get a lot better at his short passing game. His accuracy underneath as a freshman was really bad. His deep ball saved him a lot. He has a great deep ball, and he has time to throw. But we just got to see more out of him. He hasn't played in 2 to 3 years, so.
Durst, you had the luxury of covering Dante Moore last Friday, but you get to talk about him again now.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, we got to shout out last Friday's powwow that we had. But yeah, 5-star recruit, third-ranked quarterback, and a MVP of the high school All-American Bowl. UCLA transfer. He played there in 2023, but was benched about halfway through the season. I think he got maybe like 5 starts in. So we ended up redshirting in Oregon last year, completed 7 out of 8 passes. It was very accurate, but only 8 passes. And but he looked really good in the spring game. And when I went back and watched his UCLA tape against who did I watch it against? In Utah and Coastal Carolina, I saw some things that has me encouraged. So he's a prototypical modern spread quarterback, in my opinion. He's accurate throwing on the run and off platform. I expect him to have a huge season with the Ducks. And when I say huge season, Bo Nix completed 77.4% of his passes in 2023, and Dylan Gabriel completed 72.9% of his passes in 2024. I don't think I think he's going to fit in very nicely with those kind of stats. The Oregon's quick passing game suits Moore's skill set very well. I think the Ducks' offensive line that we've covered a lot today should be able to keep him much cleaner than the UCLA line did a couple of years ago. So his biggest weakness is maybe just average size and athleticism, and he struggled during pressure or against pressure. Now, of course, we're talking about his true freshman season against an overmatched UCLA offensive line against teams like Utah, but he really struggled to go through his progressions. He had difficulty seeing all 11 defenders, and when his offensive line gets overmatched, I think he just kind of throws some balls up there for grabs. So I think we're going to see a completely different guy this year than what we saw in 2003 at UCLA.
Yeah, so he had nine picks as a true freshman. 8 of those picks were all because of pressure. They were all he was just trying to get rid of that football, and he wasn't throwing it out of bounds because he's a kid. He doesn't understand. Use that out of bounds as a safety. But again, he was a kid. He has got to obviously improve the completion percentage that he had at UCLA, which is just 54%, I think. Last year, of course, like you said, 7 out of 8. Well, 87% is a whole lot higher. Again, the Oregon offense is going to protect him a whole lot more than he was ever protected at UCLA. I liked him as a kid coming out the way that he did at UCLA, but I also understood that, again, if you don't have a decent offensive line in front of you and you don't have a good tight end as a safety valve or running backs that could catch a quick hitch for you and things like that, you're going to suffer. So he obviously did suffer at UCLA, and like Durst said, he was benched after their Week 5 game, I think it was. But Dante Moore is obviously got some skills because, as Durst said, he was the number 3 quarterback in the country. Does he rise to the level of becoming an NFL draft pick this year? I don't know.
And then to build on what Greg just said, several of the players that we talked about today are actually juniors, which would include Dante Moore.
Yeah.
I do not expect Dante Moore to be in the 2026 NFL draft, but we are part of what we're going to be doing on this podcast is we're giving you what I'm going to say is like our radar. These are guys probably in the next 2 years that we're going to be talking about. Most of the players that we talked about today should be 2026. However, we will be covering several teams in this series where, like, when we cover Texas, we're going to talk about Arch Manning. Now, Arch Manning's probably not in this draft, though. But we're still going to give our assessment of where we see their game. And if you follow the channel long enough, you're going to see us change our opinions as we see more of the play. So that's just the way that the podcast is formatted. I think Oregon had 12 players that we could talk about from a draft perspective. That's really good, right? We're trying to find schools that have like somewhere between 8 to 16 players. And I believe next week we're actually covering Texas A&M, if memory serves me correctly. So we'll be diving in. But
So you're gonna tell everybody that these kids have all been 4 and 5 star recruits, and they're all failing because they're playing at College Station.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
Oh, okay, all right.
Dalton, do you want to let everybody know kind of who you are? Tell everybody about Home Squad Sports and everything else that you do.
Yeah, I'm Dalton, Home Squad Sports. We do focus a lot on recruiting, high school, coming into college football, NFL, all that. You can follow us on Home Squad Sports, YouTube. We got a new podcast every week. Interviews coming out all the time with high school recruits. Check us Twitter, anything, every platform.
Durst.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter /X at Durst NFL Draft. And most weeks I should be here covering a college team on Tuesdays, and on Fridays we're going to discuss a couple of quarterbacks on Mrs. Our Relevant podcast.
Greg.
At Team MBS Media, Draft Central, at Great Cowboys on X and at Blue Sky, and I am going to have on the final word this Saturday. The owner of Team MBS Media is going to be on with me, Joe Cardozo, and we're going to do all 10 seasons of Bosch. So the seven seasons of Bosch and the last 3 seasons called Bosch Legacy. That's what we're going to talk about on Saturday night.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you can follow the channel. Where are we? Right there.
Yeah.
At NFL. Yeah. At NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. It is the same on X as it is on YouTube. And the best thank you can give to the podcast is to hit that subscribe on YouTube or hit that like on Spotify.
Or even on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe.
And that is what's helping us grow. So this podcast has grown considerably in the last 8 months. And we have 22 podcasters right now bringing you a podcast every day. So, some days it's Durst, some days it's Dalton, some days it's Greg. You'll see Durst again on Friday. Every Friday we're breaking down quarterbacks. Every Monday and Tuesday, we're breaking down a college team. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we break down some NFL teams, and we kind of synthesize that with their draft class. So, do they run a 3-4-4-3? Did we see the players they drafted as fitting one scheme or the other? And we tend to have conversations like that. So that's what we're doing, and that's going to take us probably through the end of July. And then when August comes around, it's going to be significantly more draft focused, what 30 or 60 wide receivers are we tracking, etc. And we'll be breaking all that down to you at least one podcast every day. So Draft Professor, daily draft content, and we can't do this without everybody at Draft Professor, because we got Bill Sparks here in the comments, and you can catch Bill on Wednesdays and Fridays. He's doing the quarterbacks with Durst, for example, on Fridays, and he's doing some other content with us on Wednesdays. So that's who we are. We definitely appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to catch up on the Oregon draft prospects. For Greg, Dalton, Durst, myself, thank you very much for watching, everybody. And we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow.